Okay, these are the slides that go right along with your CAMI document. So if you look at your document, you're going to follow right along and using blue font and about a size 16 or 18 sized font. So these are already written for you at the top. Life depends on chemistry. Living things are composed of chemical compounds. So in order to understand biology, one must first understand the chemistry of life. So at the top of your paper, we talk about the nature of matter. So the first thing is the atom. An atom is the basic unit of matter. The atom is the smallest particle of a substance that still retains the properties of that substance. And remember, atoms are composed of 3 subatomic particles. They are the proton, neutron, and electron. Protons and neutrons have about the same mass, and together they form the nucleus of the atom. Electrons are small. They have a mass of about 1/1800th the mass of a proton and neutron, and they are in constant motion in the space surrounding the nucleus. So their weight, their mass does not consider into the weight or the mass of an atom. So if you need to pause the video at any point, you can do that to catch up. The subatomic particles have charges. Remember, protons have a positive charge. Electrons have a negative charge. Protons are in the center, so the red ones would be the protons, so that would be positive. Electrons are the things in the orbitals, and they have a negative charge. And then the neutrons, which are these white ones in the middle, have no charge. So carbon compounds. Organic compounds are compounds that contain carbon atoms bonded to other carbon atoms. Characteristics of carbon include carbons form very strong and stable bonds. So when you think of things like carbon fiber, it's very strong. So they make motorcycle helmets, they make bicycle frames out of carbon fiber because they're very strong and they're very lightweight. Carbon can form bonds with other carbon atoms as well as a variety of other elements such as oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus. Carbon can form chains that are almost unlimited in size. Carbon can also form rings, so it can form chains or rings. Again, if you need to stop this, you can do that. So this would be an example in the upper left-hand corner. That would be an example of a carbon chain. This one in the upper right-hand corner would be an example of a carbon ring. So you can pause this at any time to catch up. Macromolecules. Macro means large. So macromolecules are just giant molecules. Macromolecules are made from thousands of smaller molecules. The 4 groups of organic compounds found in living things are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. If you need to pause this slide, you can do that. Characteristics of carbohydrates. These compounds are made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That's where you get the name carbohydrate from. And they're in a ratio of 1 to 2 to 1, meaning 1 carbon, 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. So it's a ratio of 1 to 2 to 1. So if you look at the top picture, count the number of carbon atoms you see. So how many carbons do you see? Here's 1. So you figure out how many more there are. How many did you come up with? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I see 6 carbon atoms. Now count the number of hydrogen atoms you see. Here's 1. So count how many are there. So when you're counting, here's 1. It says H2. H2 means there's 2 of them. So that's 2. That's 1 plus 2. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So far we have C6, H12, and oxygen. So you would almost assume if it's a ratio of 1 to 2 to 1, there should be the same number of oxygen as there are carbon. So oxygen, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Therefore, we have C6H12O6. And that would be glucose. So that would be the simple sugar glucose. It can also be written like this. So there's just 2 different ways you could write that. If you did the same thing for the bottom, you should come up with the same answer. C6H12O6. Examples of carbohydrates would include sugars, starches, and celluloses. Think of quick energy. Quick energy, it's a carbohydrate. So things like candy, and then a little bit longer term carbohydrates would be breads. But then you have fruits, which would have a quick sugar. The carbohydrates are known as quick energy foods because they are very quickly converted to energy by cells because of this sugar in them. So the sugar would be broken down into a simple sugar and then used by the body. And the sugar that the body uses would be glucose. There are 2 main functions of carbohydrates. Living things use carbohydrates as their main source of energy. Some plants and animals actually use carbohydrates for structural purposes, to build parts, like to build the stem of a plant. So when you eat things like celery and other fruits like that, fruits and vegetables, there's a structure to them, and that structure is made up of carbohydrates. So the 2 uses would be main source of energy and then structural support in some plants and animals. The smaller molecules that make up the carbohydrates are the simple sugars such as glucose. Again, if you want to pause that, you can do that. The sugars. Carbohydrates are classified according to the number of sugar molecules they contain. You have monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Oops, the S got pushed a little bit, but that S should be at the end here. Mono means 1. Di means 2. Poly means many. Saccharide just means sugar. So 1 sugar, 2 sugars, many sugars. So monosaccharides only contain one molecule of sugar. In this example again is glucose. Disaccharides contain two molecules of sugar that are bonded together. There's one molecule, two molecules, and they're bonded together. And then polysaccharides are things that are linked. Polysaccharides are composed of many molecules of sugar bonded together. There are three common polysaccharides: starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Starch is only found in plants. This is the way that plants store excess glucose. So when plants have too much glucose, they have to store it as starch. Many molecules of glucose are bonded together to form starch. The next one is glycogen. It's only found in animals. This is the way that animals store excess glucose. The liver in your body bonds together many molecules of glucose to form glycogen. And glycogen can quickly be converted back into glucose if the body needs it. And finally, cellulose is a stringy fibrous material found in the cell wall of plants. It gives strength to the plant cell wall. Cellulose is the major component of wood and paper. And that concludes